Alright guys, welcome back to Hot D, episode 3 review. But first of all, of course guys, shame. I know, I'm sorry, this review is so late. What it is my laptop and iPad won't host Now TV, which is how you watch Hot D in the UK. So I'm always having to borrow my sister's or go over to somebody else's to watch it. And I've been away and all over the show quite a bit. But yeah, let's get into episode 3 because I saw it about a week ago, and longer than that. It would have been 2-3 weeks, something like that. I don't know, it was a while. But the point is that it has not left me. It's totally still stuck with me, and I can kind of remember every moment. And I feel like this is going to be quite and yeah, we were able to just kind of sit back and enjoy getting immersed in this world and getting fed this world. And I really think it was my favourite episode so far, even though I couldn't kind of hook on to one, incredible twist or whatever that happened. But I was just really enjoying it, and I just really felt like the show was kind of finding its feet and kind of just telling us, what it was going to offer. The world was building, the characters were coming out more stronger. I feel that the performances were getting stronger. We got to go on a little tour. And yeah, it was pretty rocking. So we'll get into it. So we had, the opening battle scene. There was kind of bookend battle scenes of the episode, which I think was a great way to kind of structure it. And just a great kind of, it's what they do with this is they always just find a way in where they make sure it's such an entertaining episode of TV, and they just make sure that it's kind of got some way to captivate you, So we have this opening battle scene where we've got that crab killer, and again, he's up to his old tricks. He's got men tied up on beaches and they're being eaten by crabs, and it's just not nice. It's torture. You can see what's going down. He's one big bad villain, and it's gross. But before you can even really get a good look at the crab and start thinking about how horrible it would be to be eaten by said crab, the battle commences, and we get this mad action. And this episode, I think it was directed by Miguel Sapochnik. I'm pretty sure. I would have to sorry if that's wrong, but that I kind of felt yes, this is well, you can see how this is Miguel Sapochnik. You can see how he's a showrunner in this series, in this episode, because it opens on the most, incredible action. We get that gorgeous dragon that looks like a blood wine coming out the sky, and all this insane fire. And you kind of think oh my god, a dragon that he's gonna, he's gonna have an incredible success. We're gonna see at least a lot more violence, a lot more's gonna go down. But all that they have to do is the Crab King just tells them to retreat into the caves, which I'm guessing the dragon can't fit in, and that's all. And then they can just kind of carry on their war. And we're kind of left there, and it was an interesting way to start, really, with so much kind of CGI and such kind of high stakes battle, only to really make that little point, and then we move on and we get back into the world of Westeros. And then that's when we get to, that's when we get to go to Glastonbury, and that's when we see there's been a time jump. It's been about 3 years, and Princess Rhaenyra, her best friend Alicent, has indeed married her dad. She's gone and done it. She's dilfed out. She's out-dilfed her, and she's got her dad, and she's fucking her dad, and she's had a baby for her dad. So the two girls are obviously, not mates anymore. Things are obviously incredibly tense now, and the relationship that was there is gone. And again, like I said last week or last review, I just can't wait to kind of see more of this and see where this goes. I think it's such a cool dynamic between the two girls. At the moment, they're keeping it relatively civil, obviously insane tension, but she has to kind of, this girl is still her friend is still her superior, so she has to kind of bow down to her. And then there's the whole tension going on in the background that she is still the heir to the throne, and that's still being promised, even though some people are haha, that's obviously not going to happen, especially now her friend has had a son for her dad. But that's still the idea that she is going to be the queen, so she kind of is going to have the status in the end. And obviously there's just this fear for her that that's not going to happen. Yeah, and her friend is keeping it relatively, she's staying pretty tame, and she's holding back quite a lot, but you just don't really know what she's thinking. This girl is now queen, and she now has the son who could be the heir. She's now married to the king, and you just don't really know what she's thinking and where she's gonna go with it, and how that tension and rivalry is gonna arise. Anyways, so on they go. to this big kind of, you know, celebration of her brother's birthday, her little baby brother's birthday, and it's really cool. We just get, you know, we get the set pieces and we get the, you know, the show and what like what that production company and what HBO and what everybody involved with that world is so good at doing, is just building a really cool, exciting, exotic, really, it's an exotic world that we get to go into, you know, and it's this cool, you wish you were at that party with all the tents and the feasts, and you know, it's, I like how much freedom they have. I like in this like fictional medieval realm, it's not like stuffy and it's not like a lot of period dramas. Like I'm not usually into a period drama so much over a contemporary drama, and like a lot of period dramas, it's, you know, it's very stuffy, like they can't do much, like everybody's having to follow a certain kind of code of conduct and everybody has to behave a certain way, and you just don't like see much like variety and much colour in what happens. But here it's, even though it's like way back in some kind of, you know, medieval time, you know, centuries ago in this fictional realm, it's a realm where they're kind of free and the high lords and ladies can kind of do whatever they want, and that's how so much of like the great drama unfolds. So we're at this, you know, groovy kind of party, and yeah, then I do think the episode gets into kind of cliches. They're like deliberate, you know, cliches. It's not like they're pretending that they're doing something really groundbreaking and new, but they're just painting the world that does live up to certain kind of cliches, where Rhaenyra, basically, she's that like, you know, rebellious tomboy princess. She doesn't want to marry, she doesn't want to be promised, she doesn't want the princes after her, she doesn't care about that Lannister fuckboy, she doesn't want anybody, you know, and she doesn't want to like play the princess of the court and like live up to it all and, you know, impress everyone and dance around and be like the cute little princess for everybody. She's really done with it and she's just really disgusted, you know. She has no time for her dad and his new girlfriend, who was her best friend, who's like her age, you know. So off she goes into the forest, and then there's you know, there's this hunt for the stag, and everybody's all excited because they're saying, oh, you know, the king, you can get the stag, you can get this white stag, which apparently is like a really kind of superior privileged thing, a sign of good luck if you get it, and it will be like extra like significant if he gets it on his son's name day. But what do you know, they don't find it. They say they can only find this brown stag, and Rhaenyra is the one who doesn't even find it. It like comes to her. And then she, and you know, this symbolism of like that she would be a good queen, like lets it go, isn't the one to like hurt or harm it at all. And then a bit later on, she's like killing a boar as well, and she's covered in blood, which looks really cool. And just, it's the way they do it. There's just that bit more blood. There's that blood on the face. There's like the way that she acted it, that like it just gives you that extra level of grit that like, you know Game of Thrones is like serious, it's savage, and you know that like, you know, you're gonna get more here, you're gonna get your money's worth, you're gonna get the adult content that we're tuning in for, you know. That's why we don't want it to be like PG rated, if you know what I mean. That's why it's like so good that they take you to that level. So it's great. I went on a tangent there. The blood was great. But yeah, I mean, even as I'm saying it, those were all quite cliche kind of episodes. She's the special one that the stag shows up for. It doesn't show up for her dad. She doesn't want to be a princess. She's cool. You know, she's the tomboy. She's the one that like won't marry someone, even though everybody else has to, you know, marry and adjust and go along for like what sets up, you know, the best structure of the court. And are we meant to really like her and be really rooting for her because like she's, you know, so special? Or, you know, as the show pointed out, like nobody's above that. Even her dad, the king, had to make it work, you know. So maybe we were meant to find her like a little bit annoying, you know, and a little bit spoiled. I think they're just playing with those shades of like her character. And yeah, what I would say on that really about the acting in this episode is I think Millie Alcock, who's playing Princess Rhaenyra, like it isn't the kind of character that I would usually like, to be honest. Like you can see in the way that I talk about it, I would find it like a cliche character, and I would think that it's just like not interesting, and I so much prefer like a Cersei type character, you know, or like a Melisandre kind of character. Like I like the woman to be like spicy, and I don't like the whole like, you know, typical like tomboy thing. But Millie Alcock, like her performance is just brilliant. She just makes the character likable, she makes the character charismatic, she makes her meaningful, she feels kind, she feels whole, you can see the soul in her eyes, she's just got charisma. which brings me, okay, mute this if you don't want like a little spoiler. It's kind of like a structural spoiler, not really like a story spoiler. So I'll give you a thumbs up when you can unmute, okay? So mute me now. So there is going to be a major time jump, I think just in a few episodes. In fact, that you would have already seen it if you're like, you know, following the show, unlike me, late to the review. So whatever. Shame, shame, shame. Anyways, it's going to be a time jump. There has been a time jump and they're going to change the actress. And I think like, oh, I really wish I didn't know that. And I really wish they weren't doing that. Emilia Alcott's 22. So she's playing a 15-year-old right now. I don't know why she couldn't be playing, you know, the 28-year-old version, which I think is what the character becomes. I really don't know why they've done that, because I think they've got rid of like a character with like a lot of charisma and somebody who was really infusing like a lot of likability and kind of spark into that character, and I just don't know like how that can kind of be replaced. And yeah, I'll give my review when I watch the new actress, but at the moment I definitely think bad idea. Okay, thumbs up so you can unmute me. So yeah, her performance was fab, and then Paddy Considine's performance is really good. Like, I know I complimented it in my first review, and because I'd heard that George R.R. Martin complimented it, but to be honest, like now I can really see what he's talking about. The Viserys has changed so much in these 3 episodes, and with this 3-year time jump, he's become obviously much fatter, weaker, more stressed. You can really see it. You can see the toll of ruling Westeros, like what it's doing to him, and how he's just kind of changing and, you know, just kind of shriveling in a way before our eyes. And obviously we have the scene where he tries to kill the stag. It's not even the proper stag. It's incredibly sad because a stag is getting killed, and it's the way that, like, you know, they're tying it up, they're holding it for him, they're telling him where to point the sword, and he can barely get it right. And we're all sort of meant to be like, you know, we're just seeing him as this pathetic character that's so not meant to rule. He's just so like an anti-Targaryen. And what I've kind of clocked that I didn't really clock before is, so he's a Targaryen that like doesn't ride a dragon. Like, I knew, I hadn't seen him with a dragon, so I kind of assumed, okay, his dragon is like chill, he's retired his dragon. But no, like I think he never was able to ride one. So that's like such a huge thing, that you were born into that special Targaryen family and then you can't do it. It's like in Harry Potter, the people that are born into the wizard family and are muggles, you know, who don't have any powers, and they're called a squib, which is like the meanest word, a squib. And yeah, so he's like a squib Targaryen, which sucks. And I can just see what George R.R. Martin means now. This character is so great, so well drawn, and I like can't wait to see kind of like what else comes from it. Okay, so we have, you know, the big party. Rhaenyra looks cool, she looks savage, she looks rebellious, she comes back with a boar. She obviously is very into the other guy she was hanging out with, but there's plans to marry her to her brother, and, you know, to make the line like more strong for Otto Hightower. There's a few political plots going on. And that's what happens. And then the war in the Stepstones, this whole time while they've been partying, the war in the Stepstones against the Crab King and all the dangerous people from the other side of the sea that his brother and Corlys Velaryon are fighting for him, or not really for him because he hasn't really given him permission to do it. It's just getting worse and worse and worse, and they're not winning because all the crab people have to do is go into the cave, and Viserys isn't helping him. This is all going on in the background. It's eventually Alicent that encourages Viserys to help. And then we get to kind of the final sequence where, you know, it's all not going great. Viserys is the only one riding his dragon, trying, but him and his nice bloodworm dragon, they just can't do it. They just can't defeat the crabs. Dragons, it turns out crabs beat dragons. Who would have thought it? So that's what's going down. And then he gets the letter that they are going to help, and his brother, Daemon, Viserys' brother, gives this scream of anguish and fury and distress and jealousy and frustration because he does not want to be seen to be saved by his. Okay, so in a lot of ways, I think we then get like the scene that we've been waiting for, where we want to see like how good can the action in the show be, and how compelling and captivating can these sequences be. Are we going to be like, you know, rooting for something in these situations, and is our heart going to kind of be coming out of our chest? And obviously the show was like, yes, and yes, you know, we know how to make this happen. We, you know, watch Matt Smith as Damon walk onto this beach basically to sacrifice himself. They have suggested that that's the plan, but it's not like completely clear that that is what he's going to be doing. But then he just walks into the middle of the weird, horrible, rotten crab people, you know, that weird, what they've done to that beach, what they've done to that place. He just marches onto that. Gradually they'll come out and they'll start to, you know, attack him and fire their arrows. And then some of the best, I think when Game of Thrones, but actually when any show does horror, when something brings in the horror elements, right? I know that a typical jump scare horror film doesn't work in having that much of an impact on us. We can laugh at it. When you bring in weird, creepy, twisted horror, when you bring in something you've seen from Hereditary or Midsummer, and you put it in to anything else and any other situation where you're trying to, any other scene where you're trying to scale up the drama and trying to enhance things, it is, you know, magic. It is always like the extra element you need, and that's what the Crab King gave us, where he's got that bizarre face which he's got like gold melted onto him, kind of burn victim, kind of grayscale. He's balding, and you know, he has no words or anything. All he did was go to signal to his army, you know, where they should go, what they should do next, just in the creepiest way. I could watch that like all day, him being that creepy, and that performance was honestly amazing. Whoever was playing that and making, you know, those decisions, he like that's almost like an Emmy worthy, but not saying that would get nominated for an Emmy, unlikely, but it's almost like an Emmy worthy performance, that moment. And so Matt Smith is avoiding all the arrows. So it was unrealistic that he was avoiding them all, but I was still kind of like into it. I was like, this is showing what a good warrior he is. And it gave me that tension that you get in Game of Thrones. You're like, is the main character going to die? I don't know. I've tried to stay very spoiler free. So I was like, maybe Matt Smith just dies after 3 episodes. And I was like all prepared to see that go down. And it really looks like that's going to happen. He's lured them all out. He's been the bait, he's got them out there, and even though they said this was the plan, it was done so well. I wasn't expecting it when they were all out there, and then boom, dragon comes, army comes and obliterates them, and it's because of Damon's really big ballsy sacrifice is why they end up winning. And not only does Damon get them to win, Damon is the one who kills the crab killer, Crab King. Is it Crab King or Crab Killer? I keep mixing that up. I think it's Crab Killer, right? Okay, he doesn't just kill him. He walks out of the cave that Crab Killer was in, carrying half a man. Carrying a man in half, intestines coming out. Not even half of a man. It was like a third and a bit of a man. Some, you know, a bit of arm, a bit of stomach. Like, he obliterated him. He was such a savage, and he showed what he can do, and it was just the gory, you know, scrumptious violence that is just going to make this show go to the next level. I know it, I can feel it. I am kind of disappointed though that like this, you know, villain that was built up to be like really scary, and at the end of the last episode is really exciting, is now kind of gone in one episode, because you kind of think like, well, what next, where are we going, especially with like the time jumps. I think because this show is going to jump time so much, it's like, are we going to get like really captivating, fantastic kind of villains and scenes and, you know, consequences and punishments going from week to week? And it seems like potentially not. If you're, you know, you're introduced in the end of one episode, the next episode they're gone, and you know, the next episode's 5 years later, and we didn't get to see the Crab King kind of do anything. So like, that's kind of a shame, because I do really like to make the most of the darkness, you know, so I do hope that we're going to get that. But I think it was just showing how, yeah, he's able to be a success really, and how he's clearly like a really good potential rival for the throne. And it's so interesting because is he going to take the throne from his niece? But then him and his niece had a little bit of a weird vibe going on, so you know, I don't think it's going to be quite that simple between the two of them, and I can't wait to see that play out. So now that he's won the war because of his brother's help, but he's the one that did the brave thing, I can't wait to see, and I really can't predict how that's going to play out back in King's Landing. Like, are they going to be a team? Who's going to get the respect? Who's going to be seen as the one who saves the day? I like it. At the moment, there's so much that we don't know about this world and about all the characters' kind of motivations and how everything is seen, that everything is just kind of like, I just feel like completely unspoiled, you know? I just really feel like that sense that anything can happen. And obviously Viserys is like just, you know, not long for that throne basically. So who's going to take him down, and when's he going to go down? Yeah, I think that is everything. That's a much more simple picture that I've drawn from it than the past few episodes, and it's because I did get a lot out of that episode and I did really enjoy it. I think the filmmaking is a huge part of why I enjoyed it, the structure and just kind of the levels that I think they can take us to, and just the surprises that were kind of in store for us. I did not predict that we'd get 2 battle scenes, such a violent one, Matt Smith used himself as bait and then come out with like half a man, and for all that to be kind of wrapped up in one episode, I think it just shows like how much they've got to offer us for this series. So yeah, again, you know, that was a high 8 or a low 9 out of 10, and it just gets me more and more excited to see what goes on in the next few episodes and bring on the bitch fights. So I'll be back soon, I promise, for episode 4. Thanks for tuning in. Stay safe on your dragon.